I like this book so much, I went out and bought the entire series. Don't tell my husband. I am currently obsessed with 80s dark fantasy, so I've been trying to consume as much of it as possible. Movies, video games, and books. And the latest read on this journey was Dragon Wing by Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman. This is the first book in the Deathgate cycle, a 7-book series. And it actually came out in 1990, but you know what? Close enough. In this book, we are traversing a world that ages ago was sundered into 4 realms: sky, stone, fire, and water. And this book specifically takes place in the sky realm, where humans, dwarves, and elves are battling over water, which is a really precious resource. And it's the sky realm, so all of this is happening on these various airborne islands. Like on this map, you can see these islands that are like higher up in the sky or lower down. And the next couple pages actually breaks those different levels down into the islands that populate those different heights. What I really loved about this book is that we're essentially given 3 different plot lines that slowly wind themselves together. We've got Haplo, a character who has essentially been sent to this realm to cause chaos by the Lord of the Nexus. We've got Hugh the Hand, an assassin who is hired to unalive the king's son, Bane. Hugh essentially takes Bane from the kingdom, the plan being to set it up so it looks like the elves did it, but they end up being followed by Alfred, who is Bane's old, clumsy caretaker. Except that none of those 3 characters are who they initially appear to be. Bane has a magical amulet that essentially lets him control people, and Alfred knows quite a lot about the history of this world for someone who's just a silly old caretaker. Finally, in the lower realm, we have a dwarf named Limbeck Bolt-Tightener. What a name! The dwarves in this world, known as Gegs, have been operating this crazy huge machine that no one actually knows what it does, but they're doing it because the gods told them to. And Limbeck has the nerve to say to his people, you know what, I don't think those are gods. I think those are just people making us work for free. And the Gegs don't like that because that would change their entire worldview, and God forbid we do that. The story, of course, guides all of these really interesting characters together in a really fun way. This book is definitely the kind of fantasy that does a lot of showing rather than telling. There are a couple of little lore dump moments in footnotes, but they are few and far between. And truth be told, the world is so interesting that I liked getting these little side pieces of information. This book also does a great job of telling this kind of smaller story within this very massive world. It gives the reader time to really care about these characters and what is happening in the book, but also get excited to learn more about the world. The book obviously has its dark moments, but there's also quite a bit of silliness here, and those very different tones are balanced really well. I also like that this story isn't really about heroes. In fact, many of the characters I would describe as villains. The book ended up giving me a huge dose of nostalgia, and I think that's because it reminded me a lot of the very first time that I logged into World of Warcraft. Which makes sense because I think that is another world that balances dark, grim storylines with moments of silliness really well. All of that to say that I enjoyed this a lot. Honestly, the worst thing about it is this yellow version cover. This is what the cover is supposed to look like. So much cooler. I did pick up the rest of the series, though I'm not planning to read them all immediately. For now, I think I want to continue trying out different dark fantasy series. I also picked up these 2 older Star Wars books that some people said might have that 80s dark fantasy vibe I'm going for. So I don't really know what the next thing on the list is, but I do know that I'm still really enjoying exploring dark fantasy in this way, and I'm excited to keep going. Do you have any recommendations of movies, books, or games I should check out? Let me know.